All right, it's 6:02. So the Board of Selectmen meeting for August 5th, 2020 is in session. We have some opening comments. The Nahant Fire Department is seeking applicants for the position of call firefighter. Tony, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. We last year we made a big push, and we got 4 excellent new call firefighters through this, and we're looking to restore, hire a couple more as well. For anyone listening that wants to spread the message, now's the best time to join up. A lot of the classes for the academy are actually being conducted like this through Zoom. So instead of having to actually drive up to the academy during the week, you can actually participate by Zoom for most of the stuff. And it's a great opportunity to get involved in the fire department. And if you're interested, please send an email or call the fire department, or send an email over to Chief Palumbo at D as in Dean, Palumbo, PALOMBO at nahantfire.org, or Lieutenant Doyle at D as in Dave, Doyle, DOYLE at nahantfire.org by the end of the month.
And just in case anyone didn't get those emails, Tony, can they send it to you and, if necessary, and forward it to Dean and Dave Doyle?
Yes, we posted it today on Facebook. It's also on nahant.org on our website. And again, you can call the fire department too if you're interested. Anybody there can take your information down and share it. But it's a great opportunity to get involved, and we're looking for, call firemen as much as possible. So thank you for your consideration.
All right. Another notice is about the bulletin board at the entrance of town. This is the bulletin board across from the bank.
Yeah.
This is you don't need to have permission to post there. It's for you to express your freedom of expression. And with that comes, you might see that someone's posted something that you don't personally agree with, but that doesn't give you the right to remove things. We've had a situation where people have been removing signs for whatever reason, presumably because they don't like it. And that's not really your privilege. It's nice to have a venue where people can express their views, but whatever they mean, Black Lives Matter or Happy Birthday, Jane Doe. But please be respectful of your fellow citizens and allow them to express their views, and don't remove other people's signs. Also like to remind people that the library is not open its normal hours, but it is available by appointment. Sharon Hawks lives a short walk away from the library, so please feel free to use those facilities, and remember they are available to you. You just have to call and make an appointment. There's also some news from the past week about the legal cases with Northeastern. Essex Superior Courts have made 3 rulings over the past week that had been sort of lingering due to COVID-19. But just for background, Nahant Preservation Trust and 28 private citizens have filed a suit claiming that land via Massachusetts Chapter 27 is available, should be available to the as viewed as public land. Northeastern filed a suit to have that suit dismissed, and Essex Superior Court had denied that request to dismiss that suit. Another update is that the town of Nahant filed a petition to join the NPT suit. And the reason the town voted to join the suit is it provides additional standing for the suit. So I'll explain in sort of layman's terms. It gives a little more clout to the suit if the town is standing behind the suit. The result from court ruling was that Nahant is allowed to join that suit, and separately but importantly, a formal gift agreement has been signed between Nahant Preservation Trust and the town of Nahant, so that we can receive gifts to defray legal costs associated with this suit. The third item, maybe Mark should explain this, but Mark was one of the 28 private citizens listed on that lawsuit, the Nahant Preservation Trust lawsuit, Chapter 97 suit. And when he became selectman, he requested that his name be removed from that. Northeastern objected to the removal of his name, and the other day the court dismissed that or allowed Mark's request to be removed from the suit. Mark, I don't know if you had anything to add about your personal situation or any of the others, or.
Like I said, let me just say that I'm fading in and out. I lose connections every now and then. So if you can't hear me, if you lose me, just continue the meeting without me. But as Josh said, that I was one of the members who signed that original lawsuit when I was a member of the Nahant Preservation Trust. After being elected, well, before even running for the Board of Selectmen, I withdrew my name from the Preservation Trust, and I requested that I be withdrawn from the lawsuit. And I guess the courts had decided that that was a legitimate request. So I'm glad that happened. I can only assume that the reason that Northeastern didn't want to release me is because they didn't want me voting on matters related to Northeastern, because they would have said it was a conflict of interest, but the courts decided that was not the case. So I'm glad to hear that.
So I think, those are three important legal wins for people that want to preserve Northeastern, or excuse me, East Point from Northeastern's planned expansion. Gene or Mark, do you have any other opening comments, or Tony?
I don't have any comments.
Likewise, I have nothing.
All right.
I'm good as well, thank you.
All right, so new business, we're going to have a joint vote for the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Assessors to fill a vacant seat on the Board of Assessors. And Tony, you can lead us through that process, please.
Okay, and we have Dan Script on the line as well. So Perry, I'm gonna unmute you. There you are. And Dan Hunt, are you on the phone as well? Or Dave Hunt, I'm sorry.
Yes, I am. I just unmuted.
Okay. So Dan Script.
Yeah.
Does before we get into this process, does the Board of Assessors, David and Perry, need to officially open their meeting as a joint session with the Board of Selectmen?
Well, the selectmen have already opened the joint meeting already, right?
Yeah.
That's my understanding. So that it is a joint meeting, so that should suffice.
Okay.
Forward.
All right.
Well, and the planning board for that matter.
Okay. All right. So section, is it 313 of the charter, I believe?
Sounds right.
Requires that when there's a vacant seat of an elected board, that it falls to the Board of Selectmen to vote to fill that seat until the next election, when that seat will be up for election for the remaining years of the term of that open seat. And when it's a vote of for an elected seat that has other members to that board or committee, like the Board of Assessors, it's a joint vote with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Assessors in this case. So what we're going to do here is I have a ballot in front of me that I'll fill in your votes, and then I'll have the chairman sign it. I'll have you come by the town hall and sign it, and then we'll submit it to the town clerk. And we announced the open seat 2 weeks ago, or I'm sorry, at the beginning of July, I believe. And then we allowed 2 weeks for anybody interested in the vacant seat of the Board of Assessors to submit their cover letter with name and resume. And then we're going to have, so now we're going to have the vote. So you have two candidates, and this is to fit, to fill Megan Kramer's seat. And your two candidates that submitted their name was Michael Toller and Catherine Marie Sherber. So simply what I'll do here is in alphabetical order, I will, in alphabetical order of both the Selectmen and the Board of Assessors, I'll call out your name. And if you can just announce either Michael or Catherine's name as your vote, I'll write it down and tally it up, and then get the chairman's signatures over the next couple days and submit it to the town clerk. Is there any questions from the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Assessors?
Well, I do have one question, which is the way the agenda is written, we vote on one person before we have a discussion about the other person. So I had a question. I really wanted to ask the other members of the Board of Assessors a question. So can I sneak that in?
Absolutely.
All right. So it's really a question for you two guys on the Board of Assessors. So I see that Catherine Sherber is employed at Patriot Properties, which I think would be an asset, but do you see any conflict with that in serving on the Board of Assessors or not?
I'll speak to that. I do not see a conflict. The town of Nahant is contracted with Patriot Properties for a great many years, long-standing relationship there. It would be appropriate that at the time of contract renewals or extensions that we would whatever the candidate of Ms. Sherber would abstain from that based upon her employment of Patriot Properties, but we still do have two other members. So that would be the only situation. I think that would create a situation where she would be inappropriately wouldn't be allowed to vote. But Catherine Sherber is, the Board of Assessors is one of the only municipality positions, elected positions, that is required that you take a course 101 to be qualified to be an assessor within the first 2 years of election or appointment. So she has already done that. She will have to renew that based upon her the potential appointment to the board, but I don't see that being an issue at all.
Sorry.
Does that answer your question, Josh?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Hey, Tony, I might want to pipe in here a little bit. We should first vote to nominate the candidates first, and during that nomination process, any questions could be asked regarding, as Josh mentioned, conflicts, anything like that. That would provide the forum helpful for that to occur.
So can you, Dan, maybe offer a motion so that the selectmen can move that?
Well,
Yes, it's in the packet.
it's written as a nominate. So if we,
I would ask,
Oh, okay.
If Gene could read his, that would be appropriate, I think.
Okay, what do you want me to do? Make a motion?
If you look at your packet under number 3, new business.
I see it.
Yep, if you can make the motion to nominate.
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen and Board of Assessors nominate Catherine Marie Sherber for the open seat on the Board of Assessors.
Seconded.
Seconded.
Roll call vote. All those in favor? I'll start. Josh Antrim, aye.
I think Andrew will go.
Perry Barrasso, aye.
Aye.
Mark,
Did
Why
you-
don't I do it
Mark
this,
Cullen,
why,
aye.
I need to catch you up.
why don't I do it this way? I'll read off your names, just like I will for the vote. So this is a roll call vote for the nomination of Catherine Marie Sherber, moved by Gene Canty and seconded by Josh Antrim. So please vote in the affirmative or in the negative when I call your name. Josh Antrim,
Aye.
Perry Barrasso,
Aye.
Gene Canty,
Aye.
Mark Cullinan,
Aye.
David Hunt.
Aye.
Okay.
All right. The second nominee, I move that the Board of Selectmen and Board of Assessors nominate Michael A. Collar for the open seat on the Board of Assessors. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Tony, you want to do a roll call vote?
Okay, roll call vote to nominate Michael Collar as motioned by Josh Antrim and seconded by Gene Canty. Josh Antrim,
Aye.
Perry Barrasso,
Nay.
I have the Zoom app.
Right, but do you go on?
Gene Canty,
Aye.
Mark Cullinan,
Nay.
David Hunt.
Can I clarify, is this the vote to nominate the person or the vote on that person?
This
Nominate.
is just nominate. The next part will be a vote between the two.
Oh.
I'll ask you to vote for a name.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
So I say
Um,
aye. Aye.
I would say aye too, for the nomination.
Okay.
Same here.
Same here.
So unanimous on both nominations. Okay. So now what I will do is I'll read through the same roll call. And if you can, please just either say Catherine Marie Sherber or Michael Collar.
All right, before we do that, is there any discussion by anyone?
I have none.
All right.
I
hearing
have
none.
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 All right, Tony, please proceed.
Okay. In the same alphabetical order of both the Board of Selectmen and Board of Assessors. Josh Antrim,
Catherine Marie Sherber,
Perry Barrasso,
Catherine Marie Sherber.
Gene Canty,
Catherine Marie Sherber.
Mark Cullinan,
Catherine Marie Sherber.
and David Hunt.
Catherine Marie Sherber.
Okay. So that's 5 votes for Catherine Marie Sherber. And Catherine, I don't know, we'll reach out to Catherine tomorrow, unless she's on the phone now, and get her an appointment letter and have her come in and get sworn in by the clerk. And I'll reach out to you, Perry, to have you sign this ballot. And same with you, Josh, and We'll submit this to the clerk. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Us too, Catherine.
Thanks for volunteering, Catherine, and also thank you, Michael, for volunteering.
Thank you, guys.
Can I just clarify, is there anything I am going to need to sign, or is it just Perry?
Just Perry, he's the chairman, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
You're done?
All right, do you want to move on to the next joint vote?
Sure. Gene?
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board nominate Caitlin Kelly Merrill for the open seat on the Planning Board.
Seconded.
Tony, do you want to do the roll call vote?
Yes. Okay, so this is for the nomination of Caitlin Kelly Merrill. Josh Antrim,
Aye.
Daniel Berman,
Aye.
Shannon Bianchi. Let me unmute him.
Aye.
Aye. Gene Canty,
Aye.
Mark Cullinan,
Aye.
Sheila Hamilton,
Aye.
Cal Hastings,
Aye.
Aye.
Mirhana Maximovic, do you know if Mirhana's on the call?
I have not seen her appear on the screen, so I don't know.
Mariana, are you with us? She may not be.
Okay, Stephen Viviano,
Aye.
okay, so Caitlin Kelly is unanimous for those who are here as a nominee.
All right, I move that the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board nominate Michael Collar for the open seat on the Planning Board. Anyone seconding?
Seconded.
Thank you.
Is Mark there?
Didn't we just nominate him for assessors?
Yes,
Good.
he volunteered for both.
Man of many talents.
Is that appropriate to be a candidate for both, Dan?
Yeah, I don't see a problem at all. The problem
Okay.
comes when they're elected officials, and these are nominated officials. Well, at the moment,
Okay.
I should say.
Okay.
Okay, seconded, and if there's no other discussion, I'll roll call this vote for the nomination. Josh Antrim,
Aye.
Daniel Berman,
Aye.
Shannon Bianchi,
Aye.
Gene Canty,
Aye.
Mark Cullinan,
Aye.
Sheila Hamilton,
Aye.
Calvin Hastings,
Aye.
Stephen Viviano.
Aye.
Okay, so Michael Collar unanimous on his nomination.
I move that the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board nominate Patrick O'Reilly for the open seat on the Planning Board.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, Tony?
Okay, Josh Antrim,
Aye.
Daniel Berman,
Aye.
Shannon Bianchi,
Aye.
That's my second provisional.
Gene Canty,
Sorry.
Aye.
Mark Cullinan,
Aye.
Sheila Hamilton,
Aye.
Calvin Hastings,
Aye.
Stephen Viviano.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous on Patrick's nomination. All right, so I'm gonna go through the same roll call list. And if you,
Get rid of that thing.
Call from Marco Ted and me.
just hold on. So when I call your name, if you could please vote for Caitlin Kelly, Michael Collar, or Patrick O'Reilly. Josh Antrim.
Patrick O'Reilly.
Patrick O'Reilly is an attorney out of Lynn. Is that who that is?
Sheila, you're live.
I'm up, Caitlin Merrill.
No, I meant your mic was live.
All right, hold on.
Hold on.
Daniel Berman.
Patrick O'Reilly.
Shannon Bianchi.
Patrick O'Reilly.
Gene Canty.
Patrick O'Reilly.
Mark Cullinan.
Patrick O'Reilly.
Sheila Hamilton.
Caitlin Merrill.
Calvin Hastings.
Caitlin Merrill.
Stephen Viviano.
Caitlin Merrill.
Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Patrick O'Reilly and 3 for Caitlin Merrill. So congratulations, Patrick. I will, like I said, we'll reach out to Patrick tomorrow, have him come in and get sworn in by the town clerk, and I will reach out to Cal to come sign this ballot.
Thank you, everyone.
And Dan Script, so all, or I should say both of those candidates need to run for election in the spring if they choose to sit on the boards, right?
Right. Their term is only as long as the seat they're in. And it's at this point, it's only about 9 months, I believe. So there'll be 2 seats open on each of these boards come next election.
Thank you.
Well, on the planning board, there'll be more than that, I think. But this seat, the term to which Gene was elected runs until 2024. So when Patrick faces the voters, if he wants to continue, there will be 3 years left in that term to be elected next spring, along with whoever else is up at that time.
That's correct.
All right, thank you, planning board.
Okay, can we also thank Caitlin and Michael for participating in this? We may have other things that you might be interested in helping us with later on. And shall we adjourn our portion of this meeting? Would that be appropriate?
The total meeting is a joint meeting. It'll be adjourned at the end. You could certainly stay on, but you don't have to remain if you don't want. It'll be concluded once we close at the end of the entire meeting.
Okay, so that means that the planning board is still in session until the end of the entire.
Technically, yeah, but there's no more business on the agenda for you guys.
Okay,
That I
all
can
right,
see
thank you.
anyway. Sure.
Okay.
I just wanted to echo what Dan said. Caitlin and Michael.
Josh, can I make a suggestion? Can we finish? We have a few more appointments. Can we do that and then turn it over to Deb and John on the Corona?
Sure. But I just wanted to echo Dan's statement about thanking Caitlin and Michael for
Thank you.
It's a nice luxury to have more than enough candidates to fill a seat. So we really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin.
So is Deb ready to give us a coronavirus update?
Yes, I can. I am ready to give you the update.
All right, and John Coulon's on, I think.
I don't think that was me making that noise, right?
It's a lot of noises.
Hi, John.
Hi, Deb.
So I'm sure everybody saw the front page of the item today that displayed Nahant's latest figures of 9 new positive cases. But as of today, we only have 1 positive case that remains active in town. So my last positive case came in on July 27th. So again, we've had a few consecutive days, which is great, with no new cases. So the statistics for the state are unfortunately every day going higher. And yesterday, August 4th, there were 438 new cases reported in the state of Massachusetts. That is up considerably from the middle to late June, July, when we were down into the 111 new cases, 120. So to go up to now 300 and 400 new cases the last few days in the state, and it seems to be climbing every day, is a bit, it's concerning. It's concerning because we didn't want, we wanted the trend to obviously to go in the other way. But
Hey, go in the other room.
I think, you know, I think the town, I'm sure everybody has seen the Governor Baker's new mask initiative, you know, the mask campaign that he's on. And I really am trying to work with the, you know, I'm on the school reopening committee, and we all know from everything we've read that for schools to reopen safely, the whole community has to take part in the vigilance to prevent community transmission. And that means that everybody in town should have a mask on and social distance when they are really anywhere, in an effort to keep the town as healthy as possible so that our kids in town can go back to school, because everybody agrees kids need to be in school. So to that point, we see yesterday Salem has canceled Halloween. You know that the Wall That Heals canceled Nahant. Well, they've just canceled the rest of their schedules for the rest of the year. So any large gatherings that have been planned, as the communities now are proactively deciding to cancel them, because every community wants the kids to go back to school. And so in my regional local board of health meetings, with everyone is trying to think of ways to make their community more ready for that to happen. And everyone knows that the community has to, you know, step up for the kids more or less, you know, mask up for the kids. That's kind of the new, you know, I think that's the new campaign that we're going to take forward. I don't think there's anybody that wants to see the kids do remote learning all year long for many, many different reasons. So I'm hopeful. Like I said, we've had a few days with no new cases, and I'm hopeful that we can, you know, we had 4.5, almost 5 weeks in the middle of June where we had no new cases. Then we had that little blip of 9 cases. So I hope now we're on a, you know, a better trend. And it's a daily, you know, it's a daily, we have to watch it daily. That's what I do. So that's all I have. John, I don't know if you want to add to that.
I would like to add that the 2 largest mass gatherings in New England have been canceled, that being the Big E and Topsfield Fair. That says something. And I'd also like to make 2 brief points. I'd like to remind the Nahant community that there is an issue called crisis fatigue. It is common to all disruptions of our normal routine when the description of crisis fatigue, at some point, we tend to start to lose and start to say, hey, it hasn't affected me. And unfortunately, the danger of a second wave is very real, and the danger of another shutdown is very real. We can imagine what will be involved if another shutdown comes. The second point I'd like to make is that I'm surprised that Nahant had 5 months of this global pandemic. Or of these, I was surprised that we went so many weeks with no cases at all. So that was very good for the community. That means that we can do it, and we get back to going weeks without any new cases. It will need, people need to pay attention to what they're doing. And when I see in the community some people out and about with their masks and even wearing them properly. So I'd like to encourage people to keep that in mind. Keeping in mind that we want the schools to reopen, stay open. We want our businesses to stay open or reopen. And we can do it. There are other communities that are managing, but unfortunately, the way things go in the state will dictate the state mandates, but we can certainly manage in our small community. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any idea what the reopening plans are for the Nahant schools?
There's been some conversation, public conversation last night and again tomorrow night and then again Tuesday night. I believe those meetings are, they're either at 6 or 7, and they're held by Zoom, just like this one. And people can find them by going to the community calendar and clicking on the link to the school committee's publicly posted meetings. They have a reopening committee, like Deb, like the health nurse Deb Murphy mentioned. She's on that committee.
Great.
They have there's a whole host of. I think last night's meeting Deb said was 2.5 hours. It was, and there was like over 60 people signed on to that meeting, following along. So it's.
Now was that just for us or both Swamps getting Nahant?
Just Nahant.
Just Nahant, Johnson Elementary.
Okay.
So, I think it's a there is multiple layers with the reopening. It's not just simply have kids in school or have kids learning from home or having a hybrid. It's also how are you going to keep kids separate in school? How are you going to allow kids to log on from home? What are you going to, how are you going to handle testing and training of the employees, and also testing of students if they have symptoms? How many students test positive would call for a shutdown? There's so many different layers that are being considered. It's quite the project, and they got a great team working on it. So I encourage any parents that are interested to participate in those meetings. Again, they met last night. They meet again tomorrow night, and then Tuesday again next week. And Selectman Canty, as a selectman, you are also a member of the Board of Health. And once, what we'll be doing is we'll have a joint meeting, Board of Health, with the school committee at the next meeting, where they will present to you all the work that they've done to that point.
Great. That's excellent. Thank you.
Deb, anything else?
No, I think that's it. Like I said, I think our main goal now, if we can keep the numbers down, is to really, work with it. We have a great committee on this school reopening committee, and just to, our goal is to get the kids into school.
Deb, I asked this the last time. I'll ask it again. What was the gender and the age groups of these last 9?
Well, it was a little bit of everything, actually. There were, there wasn't, it wasn't a group of all 13-year-olds. It was, it was somebody in their 60s, somebody in their 40s, somebody in their 50s. There was really no connection between any of these cases except family, So you really can't say with those 9 that it was not like before when we had the nursing home where we could say, oh, everybody was, 70, 80, 90. Can't do that. Yeah. It's really very, very, it's right across the board now. But,
thank you.
And I will, commend our health nurse on this too, because, before when we had a lot of cases and many of them were in Jesmond, the tracking of contacts was,
it didn't have
it was easy compared to what I think you're going through now, when you have so much summer activity, people at the beach or at the park or in their backyard or, things like that. Deb had a number of contacts to reach out to. So she's been working nonstop, and we thank her.
For sure.
Deb, do you want to mention anything about, that we're getting into the planning phases as well on the flu shot?
I was just thinking about that. So I don't want to say too much except that we're hopefully having a meeting on Monday. Bobby Joe is going to be putting that together for us. We're going to have, we are having our flu clinic this year is going to be a drive-through. It's going to be our first shot at a drive-through outside flu clinic. I met with the Regional Board of Health Nurses today, specifically for flu clinic planning. And everyone will be doing theirs outside this year naturally because of COVID, and also because many people that have the virus now are asymptomatic and they don't know they have the virus. So even if we brought people into town hall and tried to space them out, we really can't be 100% sure that the next person in line, wouldn't be safe. So we're going to do it outside. We have a flu team that I've put together, and of nurses and clerical people to help the date of the flu. I did hear good news today from our vaccine supplier that our flu shipment is going to all come on the same day instead of 3 separate shipments like we had last year. So we will be able to plan it, and we're going to try this year to do it by appointment only, so that we have a steady stream for the drive-through and we don't have, traffic jams. We don't. So more to come on that. We'll be really starting to plan that out on Monday.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Deb.
Welcome.
All right, if that's all on the coronavirus update, we can return to new business. Topic 3C, setting the date, time, and location of the 2020 annual town meeting. Gene, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Or I can make the motion and you can second?
I will.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to set the 2020 annual town meeting date to September 26, 2020, that's a Saturday, at 12:30 p.m. and to assemble at the Flash Road Park in Nahant, Massachusetts.
Seconded.
Any discussion? I guess I have a couple words. I know Tony has considered a lot of different possibilities, venues, locations, scenarios, and this is what seemed to fit the bill best with parking and space to spread out for social distancing. Tony, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, and I'll just a little background too is legislation was passed at the state that allowed town meeting to be postponed, and typically we'd be having our town meeting back in May, but because of COVID, we postponed it, and also due to COVID guidance, it would be basically impossible to host that meeting indoors to account for the appropriate amount of spacing with social distance guidelines. So we considered Bailey's Hill, Lowlands, Country Club, a number of different places, and whether it came to parking or issues related to size of the space and things like that, we narrowed down to Flash Road Park. So what we'll have, people can park on Flash Road. They can park at the school. They'll be able to park in the parking lot. We have bathrooms in the area. We can easily close in the space so that folks are going through a check-in line, similar to that we have in town hall, and we can accommodate as large as a big group or a small group, depending on which way we decide to go with coronavirus numbers and what's on the warrant. So either way, Saturday, September 26th at 12:30 at Flash Road Park is the venue, and we have quotes coming in for different scenarios for seats and stage and audio visual, and we'll have all those logistics planned out and announced publicly as we get closer to the day.
So Tony, will there be like fencing to contain people so that they're not floating in or out?
Yeah, so we'll put up some type of that's the other benefit of Flash Road Park is the idea right now is to use Babe Ruth Field, kind of extended into the soccer field, and we can use the existing fencing to help along with that. But yes, anybody that you have to be a registered voter to be at town meeting, so there'll be a check-in line, and then folks will have wristbands once they get checked in, and of course there'll be we're working on the electronic voting like we did at the last meeting as well. As far as having a tent, again, it's somewhat dependent on what's on the agenda and how many people we expect to attend. And then we'll have, what we're working on simultaneously is a rain date location. So for now, this will be the date, and then we'll put something out publicly and here at a Board of Selectmen meeting about a rain date in the coming weeks, should we need it.
There's a couple questions in the chat. you sort of addressed those just now, Tony, but Alice Court asked about the possibility of a rain date, and you just addressed that. And Ken Carangelo asked about any guidance from about town meetings from public health officials. I think you touched upon that at the beginning of your talk. Can you just reiterate that?
Sure. So outdoor unenclosed COVID guidance doesn't have a cap on the amount of people, so long as you're keeping 6-foot social distancing. Enclosed would be a tent, and then it has a 100-person cap. However, legislative bodies are exempt from the guidance. But even though we're exempt, we still want to lead by example and follow the social distance guidance that's provided by the state. So, you know, we would be limited to how many people we can fit under a tent based on 36 square feet per person, essentially. 6-foot distance, 6 by 6. You know, we are continuing to monitor local numbers and state numbers. As Deb mentioned earlier, state numbers are seeing an increase day by day, and the governor may come out with new guidance in the coming days or weeks that we'll have to adjust for. You know, again, mostly it comes down to you know, what's on the agenda, and that's something that the Board of Selectmen and the health nurse and the health inspector and I are having continued conversation. So we are, you know, we're planning for a full warrant, you know, with the entire host of articles, but you know, we may need to adjust and have a simplified warrant if public health rules call for it. So it's something that we're monitoring closely. But either way, we would be doing, you know, Saturday the 26th at Flash Road.
Tony, can I add something to that? I just want to reiterate that the first day of school in person for not everybody, but the first group that's going is September 21st. So having the meeting September 22nd, you know, 5 days later, I worry a little bit about how many hundreds of people are going to be in the field 6 feet apart. Is everyone going to have a mask on the whole time? Or, you know, I'm just trying to say, when I see everybody canceling these big events, and when we're trying to really focus on the school reopening safely, I just want to make sure we're aware of everything else that's going on and the numbers, and of course, you know, we'll be tracking the data for the town as well up until then. But the last thing I want to do is open up the school and, you know, 2 weeks later close it down. Just a scary thought for me. That's all.
I think that's a great point. It's definitely something that we're you know, I'm glad you brought it up. It's definitely something that we're considering. We looked at a lot of other towns and how they handled their town meetings. Legislation, Dan, I'll let you jump in here, but legislation and DOR, Department of Revenue guidance, allow for the town to do 1 month budgets up to 3 months total. And so that's what the town has been doing. We approved a 1 month budget for July and for August, and the next one will be for September. It doesn't allow us to go beyond that date, and we need to have an approved budget to continue this standard operation of government. many other communities have representative town meeting, where they actually have, let me back up one sec. I'm sorry. The other part of the legislation allowed for the quorum amount to be decreased for town meeting. Dan, do you recall what the specifics were about the quorum piece?
There was a percentage. I know it's a silly number for us. Our quorum currently is 75, as I recall. And it was something like you could have no less than 10%. So theoretically, we could have 8 people, maybe 9 as a quorum. So it's really, it's sort of a silly number that really won't affect us much at all. And to Tony's point, a lot of these towns, you might be hearing are having town meetings, but ours is the rarest form of town meeting, and that it's an open town meeting. So it's going to attract a lot of people. So that's an added consideration that I know these Deb and Tony are considering.
I'd like to suggest maybe Tony and Deb and you, Dan Script, and John Coulon have a little meeting, and so that you can report back at the next Board of Selectmen meeting to make sure that we have a plan that is acceptable to Deb. Or not.
Certainly. Yeah, I think Deb and I talk about it every day. And we'll definitely, I think that's a great idea. We can definitely sit down and we're putting stuff day by day, pen to paper. But yeah, some towns, just again for more background, some towns that have a 200-person quorum were able to lower that down to maybe less than 100, and really they were able to do sometimes a webinar like this, like a virtual meeting, and actually have a training and control the amount of people that were going to be either online or at a meeting in person. Where we have open town meeting, we want to meet our minimum for the quorum, but we may want to try to control our maximum too, so that we don't have too many people, depending on the public health guidance that we get. And some of that will impact, the articles on the warrant. As you guys know, as I think it's no secret to folks in town, certain articles on the warrant are going to call for larger participation. So those are things that we need that we're monitoring daily. We're planning to hopefully be able to do it all in a safe way, so people can voice their opinion and participate in a healthy manner. But it is possible that we may need to adjust to the circumstances, because as we said, the state numbers are climbing daily, and the governor may come out and take a step backwards in his phase reopening approach. So that's the most of the background there. But like I said, either way, we would, whether we're having 100 people or having 50,000. Obviously, we wouldn't have 50,000, but we're going to be at Flash Road Park, spaced out, with masks on, in a organized fashion, very organized fashion, so that it's a publicly healthy way to conduct a meeting.
Not sure what the hand raising protocol is. Hi, I just put this in the chat, but Tony, to something what you just said, just raised my eyebrow. If you're talking about potentially limiting the number of participants to stay below some safe limit, if there's anything contentious that's being discussed on the warrant, how could you ensure that the distribution of people in the room represented what was outside the room? If you were capping.
I think, in discussion with the Board of Selectmen, that they would want to make sure that if there's anything contentious on the warrant, that we are allowing as many people as possible. We're not capping it at all. Their ability to participate in those warrant articles. So if we are in a public health scenario that we really need to limit the amount of people, then we need to consider adjusting the articles on the warrant and really do things that are bare essentials of keeping government running. But again, it's really, it's a fluid situation. I don't want to get too far ahead of the selectmen on that discussion.
Thank you.
Well, as a logical plan, the town hall has a certain capacity, and we have to make sure that this outdoor venue has at least that capacity. That would be a first logical.
Yeah.
So I would say.
Yep.
All right. Anything else on the town meeting before we move to the next item?
Well, yeah, just one more question. What does happen if you run over capacity or an established number for capacity?
If it was, for example, if we were in the town hall, if we were in the town hall, which has a capacity, I think, of just under 500, it's in the high 400s. We'd have to continue the meeting.
Yeah, Gene, the moderator has the power under the COVID laws to declare that the meeting cannot occur due to the outstanding circumstances and then postpone it beyond the date that it's scheduled. So that would be within the moderator's power.
Let me jump in here. Let me first say two things. One, I think this is going to be sort of data-driven, governor's recommendations, what happens over the next month or so. We're going to have to follow whatever his guidelines are regarding how many people can come together in what way. But secondly, I am not in favor of limiting anyone. If we are able to have town meeting, I will not be willing to limit anyone from participating.
Yeah, I think Ken misunderstood Tony. I don't think Tony was suggesting for a second that any citizen would be eliminated from town meeting. That was never in our conversation. So I think that was a misunderstanding on Ken's part. That
It was the
won't
word
happen.
cap that caught my attention. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I apologize for that, Ken. I guess if we were in a scenario where we were being told, by the state for guidance that we should limit it to a certain amount of people, we would want to adjust the warrant accordingly to the, non-contentious articles and publicly educate folks on the importance of, keeping the numbers low. But we would never turn anybody away, and we would prepare for as many people as we need by having enough chairs and having them spaced out appropriately and things of that nature.
Okay, trash bills.
I think you need to vote. I think that was still discussion.
Right, it was just discussion. You're right.
All right. Looks like it's okay. So we've had our discussion. Roll call vote. Josh Efferm, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Okay, now we can talk about trash.
Okay, so this is more of a discussion for folks paying attention here. We typically send out our trash bills by now, but they're actually delayed. Part of that is due to the new contract with Waste Management and the increase in the cost of that service. And what we're doing internally is taking a look at how we distribute those costs among the town. And we're going to be presenting an alternative to the selectmen soon. As a little preview to it, what we've been looking at is our billing service has it programmed by parcel number right now, or parcel ID. So if you have a single family home and you have a 4-family home, they're actually as classified with the assessors, they're actually receiving the same fee. So what we're trying to do is adjust that so that, you know, each unit of home is being charged a trash fee, and that you know will increase the number of folks paying bills, which would then distribute the fee amongst more people and potentially help suppress the increase in the fee itself, the individual fee itself. Dan's been working closely with Sheila in the assessor's office and Mary Lowe, and they have been doing a tremendous job on this analysis. And Dan, I'll pass it to you if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, you articulated it pretty well. The bill for this R1, the one household, actually is going to stay the same, if not go down a little bit. But as you mentioned, it's going to be spread out over more households that, to this point, have been getting the benefit of the past way of doing things. So it's going to be a much fairer way of distributing the cost of waste management and the rubbish enterprise fund.
So hopefully we'll have that in front of you, the board, at the next meeting, so then we can, you know, get the trash bills out as soon as possible after that.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for the effort on that. Sounds like a good outcome for all the residents.
Okay, want me to go, Josh?
Yep, you can go.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the appointment of Nahant Police Officer Matthew Monroe to the rank of Sergeant with the Nahant Police Department.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, we have Chief Dwyer is on the call. Just unmuted you, Chief, if you want to participate in discussion.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to assist with this promotion. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, we appointed Sergeant Schultz to Lieutenant Schultz, and this is the result of that promotion. I respectfully ask the board to promote Matthew Monroe to the sergeant's position. On July 23rd, we held an assessment center, approximately 4 or 5 hours of testing. The officers went through a process with real live scenarios in front of 3 outside chiefs. And at the end of the process, they have a scoring template that they use, and they send me the results of the assessment center. At the end of the assessment center, Officer Monroe, obviously, the reason why I'm appointing him, he did well in the assessment center. He's been with us since 2011 as a police reserve. In 2015, he was appointed patrolman. He has a BA bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and he's a certified EMT. He was also a dispatcher in Peabody. He brought that experience to us. He's been in the community for 5 years, well respected, and I'm looking for your support in this appointment.
Great, excellent.
You have my full support, Chief. Officer Monroe's been a great leader amongst the guys at the department, and great community police officer. Nothing but great things to say. I think I know that there was a couple officers looking for this promotion, and both were great candidates for it. And we are lucky that either one would have been a great option. But congratulations on this selection. I completely support it. Officer Monroe is we're lucky to have.
Thank you.
Thanks for your input, Chief. And
thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Roll call vote. Josh Antrim, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
The next item on the agenda, 3F, is to approve the appointment of Reserve Officer Brian W. Nazaro Gene, would you like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the appointment of Reserve Officer Brian Nazaro with the Nahant Police Department.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Chief?
Yes, Brian Nazaro, looking forward to this young man coming to work for us. He's 25 years old. He's a Medford resident. He has a BA in business at this time. Hopefully he'll change it to criminal justice. In November, he was a 2019 graduate from Full-Time Academy. Brian put himself as a self-sponsor through a full-time academy, which means he assumed all the cost on his own time without getting paid. I think he'd be an asset to the department. I'm hoping that we can groom him, and in the future opening of the police department, he may have an opportunity to become a full-time Nahant police officer. Obviously, we're always looking for good reserve officers. Reserves go through approximately 400 hours of training, but however, full-time academies, I can't remember what the hours are, up to 800 or 1,000 hours now. So I'm glad to have Mr. Brian Nazaro as the next reserve in the Nahant Police Department. I'm looking for your support on this appointment as well.
Great. I see he's on the Zoom call.
Brian is on the Zoom call, and I also have Sergeant Monroe here as well. He's sitting in my office going through this process.
All right. I guess I won't say congratulations yet, but hopefully in a moment. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote. Josh Antrim, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Okay, now congratulations, Mr. Nazaro and Sergeant Monroe.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Good
everyone.
job, Chief. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congrats. The next item on the agenda is a discussion about parking issues. It's certainly been a hot topic among the citizens, and I know Dan Scripp, you've been digging into this a bit. So you or Tony want to talk us through the current status?
Absolutely.
Sure. Tony, you want to take it? Want me to take it? It's up to you.
Go ahead, Dan. I'll jump in after you.
Okay, the parking is a big issue around the town here, and just reviewing our parking policies and reviewing our schedule of violations, we've discovered that there's some leeway here, and in order to bring our situation to the best place it could be, which is to say to charge a bit more for the parking violations, we've determined that we could rescind a vote that was taken by town meeting back in 1964, adopting a particular statute, and if we rescind that vote and then take another vote to accept a graduated, more powerful statute, then we are putting ourselves in a position where we can take a bigger and more stronger stand regarding the parking issues around town. And we need town meeting to do that.
I'll also, Chief Dwyer is also here on the call. We know that this year, parking and activity in town has been a hot issue around the community. I will say that a lot of that is due to the coronavirus, and that we have a lot of people that aren't going on vacations, or kids aren't in sports or at camp, and really the only option they have is to enjoy our public beaches, and not just us. This is being seen up and down the coast. We did pull some information, it's in your packet, comparing from March 1st of 2019 to July 31st of 2019. So last year, we had 334 tickets to $11,785. For that same time period this year, we've issued 1,100 tickets to the tune of almost $42,000. So for the same time frame, you've seen a significant increase in ticketing and violations, and just simply the number of people in town. So our officers are working hard at combating the current issues that we have. And I think that there's additional layers to that is we have signage issues in town, which we have planned. We have money in the budget planned for a sign audit of the community. Unfortunately, because town meeting was postponed, we haven't, that amount of money hasn't been approved yet, and so we haven't been able to pursue that contract, but that is another step in the process. Chief Dwyer, do you want to mention anything?
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, I've been here for 30 years, and we've been dealing with parking issues my whole career. However, there's nothing other than the numbers this year. This is what we do. Come May, June, I call it the Memorial Day Parade, the kickoff dance for the Nahant Police Department in reference to combating parking issues. It's been going on my whole career. Nothing has changed other than the COVID-19. So let's start back in March when the COVID started. We were all pretty much, things slowed down. People were laid off, or businesses were closed, schools were closed. So everything started shutting down. So then we decided that we're going to shut down all the state beaches and the parking, etc., which turned into traffic, people going out for rides. And I'm guilty of that myself. My wife and I, on a Sunday, our routines were changed, and we found ourselves driving up to Gloucester. So I was watching all these coastal towns on my way through, and they're dealing with the same things we are. People are just looking for somewhere to go to enjoy the outside in their car with their families. So they come down Linshore Drive. Linshore Drive is closed. The beach park's closed. The Long Beach is closed. They continue to drive, and majority of it was just traffic in March and April. So now, like Tony said, a lot of our issues right now, and let's look back with, July. July usually is not that big of a month for us. It's busy, but not over the top. Because why? Because kids are in basketball camp. Kids are in are working summer programs. They're in baseball programs. Football's getting ready. There's so many things going on. All of that has come to a halt. So where else you're going to go? The vacations have been all dismissed. People can't go to New Hampshire, Maine. So a lot of things have changed. And so the alternative is the beach. And so we've been inundated. Not only us, Swampscott, Marblehead, if you go right up the coast, we're all dealing with the same issues. It's trying to control chaos. And, I don't fault the people looking for somewhere to cool off. We're just doing our best to control it. I want to say this, so the officers don't take this in the wrong way. They are working, and they're working hard to control what's going over here. We are everywhere. We're from one end of this town to the other. I put as many officers on as I possibly can because we're running 24/7. That Long Beach lot has caused us some problems from the beginning. We have to control that traffic down there. We have to control the flow. What goes on in the causeway with people trying to do, trying to sneak in certain areas without staying in that line, causing us traffic backups, we get it. We get down there and try to control that. It's not an easy solution. We're doing the best we can to control it. I don't see this, if the corona goes away, hopefully the COVID goes away this year, and hopefully we'll have a vaccine for it. We come into next year, we're going to see a change. Are we still going to battle parking issues? Yes, we're in a coastal town. I've been dealing with it since 1992. We're going to be dealing with it 10 years after I'm gone. So it's here, and we just got to control it. There's no easy solution. I've had a conversation with Tony a few times about this. We have some signage issues in town that need to be addressed. I'm not going to go into detail, but it needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked at closely. No parking on either side anytime means just that for everyone. So that's the beginning of a problem. So that means for everyone, and not just Nahant residents, no parking anytime either side means for everyone. So there's certain things that we need to clean up in town to make our jobs a little bit easier. But the officers are out there. They're battling it every weekend. We have a plan. There's officers designated to areas. They stay in those areas unless something of like a lost child on the beach, for an example. That's an all-out, let's go, we got to get down there and find that child. But other than that, they stay in those boxes to control the flow of, legal people parking illegally. The other issue, we talk about signs. I've made signs up, A-frame signs. We've got signs everywhere. At this point, I've come to find out if you want to ignore a sign, you ignore a sign. And people ignore signs. And we do the best we can under the circumstances. I know some people have come up with alternatives to what we're doing. As far as I'm concerned, we are the alternative. We understand the problems. We know what the problems are, and we address them as quickly as we possibly can. So, I've addressed some offline. I've addressed some issues with residents. They get it. The other part of the problems that we do have a lot of residents over here invite guests to their houses, 6, 7 vehicles in front of their houses that are guests. We got to deal with those bumps in the road every weekend as well. So we're doing the best we can. The officers are fighting the battle, and like I said, I think a big part of this, I've seen it busy over here, but not the traffic I've seen since COVID. And I think if we go back to normal next year, we're going to be busy, but not like we are right now. So that's it. If anybody has any questions.
Well, thanks for that explanation, Chief. Certainly know that you guys are working frantically. And, just from a layman's point of view, it certainly does seem like it's much more of an issue this year than other years. But is there any, one thing I've heard from residents is the fee structure. And I understand there's some legal limits on the parking ticket fee structure that, I don't know if you want to explain that, Chief, or you?
Sure, I can have Dan chime in, Dan Script a little bit. But however, we talk about the fee structure. I've done a little research myself, and again, since COVID, this days are long, and we're trying to deal with a lot of issues every single day. So I try to get some parking tickets from the surrounding areas. Believe it or not, we are above the surrounding areas, parking fines, and I believe we are locked into the fines we are currently are using. I don't think we can exceed those. And Dan, if you could, maybe you can chime in on that.
There are 2 statutes that pertain to parking around the Commonwealth, and towns have the ability under the home rule to adopt one of those 2 statutes. 60 some years ago, we adopted Chapter 90, Section 20A, which, as the chief mentioned, does set a limit on the violation schedule. The statute that town meeting will be suggesting, or will suggest a town meeting, is its neighboring statute, Chapter 90, Section 20A and a half, and it greatly increases the amount of fines, or the amount of the violation amount that the officers can charge for the same violations that are occurring today. And will obviously curtail the parking issue that we have at the moment.
And to, on Tony's, talked about the number of tickets, and I know that, I think we're closer to 1,400 tickets that we've issued, because the last 2 weeks haven't been accounted for at Town Hall. So as far as raising the fines, like Dan said, we're going to have to, go through a process to get to that. Right now, I think it's status quo until we can get through the process.
Yeah, we don't have the ability to legally raise the fines any more than they already are.
Right.
So I've 900 more tickets in the same time frame compared to last year. Really shows not only how much work you guys are doing at the police department, but also how many more people are in town right now. So,
right.
Hey, Chief, this is Gene Cantor. I'd just like to say thank you, too, because I met with Tony, a week or 2 ago?
Yeah.
And we talked about some minimal deterrence, some things that we could put out there, the tow truck at the bank and the police car across and the 3 police officers at the entrance. You guys have really done a great job of responding to all this, and that showed this weekend. that I was up and down there a few times going in and out of town, and it was just perfect. It couldn't have been better. And Tony's also addressing some issues up with the harbor master, who has been doing a great job of policing the beaches and around town. But also, they're going to put some buoys out there, Tony?
Yes.
Yep, that's the next item on the agenda.
So
before we leave that, let me excuse me. Let me just say that I think that Chief Dwyer and my careers parallel one another in the town of Nahant.
Yes.
And I can't agree any better than what Chief Dwyer had just said. He summarized it perfectly, I think.
Yeah.
And I think his force is doing a great job. These things happen, and you have to react to them the best you can, and they're doing the best they can. And I support, Tony, your effort and the chief's effort to do a sign audit in the town and get that done. I think that will help a lot. So thank you, Chief, and thank you to all you guys.
Yep, thank you. And one other thing I want to put out there, as far as when I get a complaint, I just don't brush it off. I try to, look into it, investigate it, and try to, try to address it as best as possible. So the wharf, we're getting a lot of calls. It's busy down there. So to address that issue, we've been down there. We're going down there every 8 or 10 minutes on a phone call for 20 kids, 30 kids jumping off the wharf. I understand the wharf situation better than most. However, when you get that amount of kids down at the wharf doing what they're doing, we get to a point where somebody could potentially get hurt. So what we did is I assigned emergency management down there, Kyle Macario, to do some community emergency management policing, to give us a break down there to communicate with the kids, and it's working. It's working, and so we've calmed down that issue there for the time being. We can't be everywhere all the time. We try. We have routes. We have plans. When we leave here on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday mornings, we try to cover everything. But it only takes one emergency, one medical aid, or a lost child, or could be an arrest. Hopefully, we don't have to make. That could send our plan into a tailspin. So it's we do the best we can with what we have. I try to put enough coverage on to protect the town, but like I said, these officers are going around the clock, so they need to get rest as well. So, but I appreciate everybody's support. What we do, and understand that we're there for the community. We're going to do the best we can to react to these and respond to these calls and solve as many problems as we can. Thank you.
And there's no better person than Kyle to communicate to those kids down there.
You got
Thanks, Kyle, for doing that. Appreciate it.
Yep, he's doing a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or?
Sorry, I had myself muted, but I just wanted to ask, so Dan, if I understood correctly, if we want to allow ourselves the flexibility on a fee structure, that would have to be a town meeting vote?
No, the town meeting vote would be to adopt rescind the statute we adopted in 1964, and then accept another statute, the neighboring statute. And then that would empower the selectmen to choose the fee schedule from there. Town meeting does not set the violation schedule. That's a selectman's duty. But the town meeting empowers them to do that.
But we would have to adopt the other statute at town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. So we should probably create a warrant article to do that so that we have the flexibility and aren't boxed in by the current fee structure.
We're already in the process. We're already in the process of doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have it included in the draft for tonight.
Okay.
And but Dan, just a point of clarification on that. We won't be able to go higher on our fees even by accepting the new chapter?
No,
It's
once
just
we,
go ahead.
once we accept the new chapter, then yes, then we can increase the fees. But at the moment, we're frozen. We can't go any higher than we are. Once the new statute, then we can increase them. Actually, it's a pretty good amount, to be honest.
And, but we don't have to increase them. We can
No,
keep
you do
them.
not.
We could. We can, get some input from Chief Dwyer, and but it would be nice to have that flexibility. It seems to me.
It's an up to amount. You can go if this is a high water mark, and you can go anywhere up to that point.
I think that answers a question
Yeah,
I see in the chat from Michelle Capano.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
All right. Any other discussion on this topic? The next item, 3H, is discussion regarding boating issues. I know Rob Thibault's been is on the line. Rob and I spoke a little while ago. I just want to read the COVID-19 Phase 3 recreational boating rules. Safe operation of recreational boats is permitted under the following guidelines. All users while on boat ramps, docks, piers, etc. shall follow social distancing. All recreational boating is subject to the discretion of local officials, harbor masters, and law enforcement. All local rules, regulations, laws, and Coast Guard requirements still apply. So this says that local officials, harbor masters, and law enforcement can set the guidelines under the current COVID-19 Phase 3 guidelines. Talking to Rob earlier, one solution that Rob is going to implement is a swimming buoy in the 40 Steps Cove, so that some portion of that buoy cove is set aside for swimmers, and that limits the amount of area available for anchoring. We talked too about maximum number of boats rafting up. Rob suggested 5 as a maximum. I think that's a good place to start. That gives us sort of the COVID-19 guidelines give us sort of a trial thing that we could revise under new guidelines, or revise at any time, really. Rob, did you have anything you'd like to add? Is Rob muted? He is muted.
I don't see.
Tony, can you unmute Rob Thibault?
Can't find him.
Scroll across. He's there.
I have him right under Michelle Capano. That's on my screen.
Yeah, same.
What does it say on the? What's it say? Oh, there it is. Here we go.
Rob Thibault.
Yeah.
There he is.
There you go.
You're live, Rob.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to give you some input on this. Obviously, we're experiencing a small portion of what has been discussed by Chief Dwyer with respect to the parking issues and controlling people down at the wharf, etc. People are on staycation with the COVID-19 issue, and Nahant is the destination for many. It's not uncommon around Short Beach to go out in the midday Saturdays and Sundays, see boats from Beverly all the way down to Quincy as their home ports. These folks are picking out a destination. 4 or 5 boats will get together, and they'll go to that location for the day. Not such a big deal as far as space is concerned. As far as Short Beach has plenty of room, but we do have the COVID-19 issue as far as gatherings, and you know, as Josh just read, we do have some authority over that, and I think it bears some consideration in that we get 5 or 10 boats rafted together. you're talking about anywhere from 10 to 20 people, all in a very, very compact area. And whether or not we want to speak to this is obviously up to the selectmen. The other issue that we have is up at 40 Steps, the 40 Steps beach area. Obviously a very, very small cove, but also a destination, once again, for people coming from other cities and towns. We can see 5, 6, 7 boats all rafted up together inside that cove, which makes me very nervous, given how little area there is on an outgoing tide. We could easily imagine some of those boats finding their way onto the rocks. The other problem that we have there is that we have a significant number of swimmers, both from the beach and from Castle Rock itself, even with the Nahant police trying their very best to keep people off of Castle Rock. It's a constant battle, and we have swimmers bobbing everywhere throughout that cove, along with the boats. That is, to me, just a recipe for disaster. And whatever we can do to try and at least limit the boat traffic, I think is in our best interest. One of the quickest ways to apply some control here would be to decide that we're going to create a swimming area. Now, what the difference here is that over on Short Beach, we are establishing a no-wake zone. And then the harbor masters go into that no-wake zone and enforce it individually as far as boats that come within 150 feet of the swimming area. Obviously, the swimming area is an imaginary line that's moving with the tide. So that one's a tough one also. But with, just some diligence and cooperation, I think that we've been able to keep that in check. However, once again, over at 40 Steps, there's just no space. And my thought there is that we just basically close off at least half of that cove and say no boats inside the swimming area. And that should put us in a better position as far as controlling the number of boats that raft up in there.
What about Canoe Beach?
I haven't seen the size of raft ups in there that I have over in the 40 Steps Beach, but we could absolutely consider the same move there.
Now, the only problem with Canoe Beach, Robbie, is that what happens is when they raft up, there's not as many boats, but they're in closer. And I think that
okay.
They're pushed in closer because there's a rock formation there that they try to stay away from. So they'd either have to go outside it or inside it. But I agree. I think that doing what you're doing over in 40 Steps is a good idea.
We could do it on both, Gene, and just basically drop a buoy in both coves and just say, anything beyond this is a swimming area. All boats have to stay outside of it. It just it depends on how strictly we want to move on this. I think also another issue that we have is that geographically those beaches may have more of an incline, so there's a much bigger change in the water as the tides come in and out. The depth of the water, how much the shoreline moves, things like that. Obviously, this is a little bit of a challenge for me and the harbor masters in that those beaches are also, they become washing machines in any kind of a storm situation. So we might be chasing buoys all over the place, but we're willing to give it a shot.
Oh, that'd be great. That would really be good. I think you'd have a lot of people up there that would be happy to hear that or see that.
So this is listed on the agenda as a discussion, and the COVID-19 rules do allow for local officials, harbor masters, and law enforcement to set the rules. So we could try to make a motion that captures those, or we could potentially make a motion to give Rob the authority under the COVID-19 Phase 3 rules to set those as he sees fit. Any thoughts, Gene or Mark?
Yeah, I would move to allow the harbor master to enforce what he feels is appropriate under the circumstances. I
think
I get a second on that.
I'll
second. I'll second that.
Any more discussion on that? I guess I do have one more thing to add, tangentially related, which is Tony and I looked up the police bylaw rules on noise or noise ordinances, and there are noise ordinances on the police bylaws that boil down to be considerate and don't make too much noise. So those are available as tools for law enforcement as well. And there have been some complaints about excess noise from rafted up boats. So that's another tool that's available. That's all I had.
But that doesn't have to be included in this motion, right? Because it's already in effect.
Right. Yeah. That doesn't. Yeah. That's just a little bit of a side topic. But
okay.
Hey, Robbie, just one more. What do you consider to be a safe rafting limit?
Well, Gene, geographics play some part of it. Once again, I would feel more comfortable if we didn't have more than 3 in say 40 steps. But once we get over to Short Beach, we could certainly have more. So I guess I'm falling back on what I've been reading as far as COVID-19 restrictions, and say that maybe we should be trying to keep the number of people in a small area, which would be a raft up in this case, to as close to 10 as possible. So loosely saying that maybe we have 2, possibly 3 persons per boat. Maybe 5's the number.
5 is the number of boats rafting?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go along with whatever you suggest.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too. And the nice thing about the motion that's on the table is you get to choose it. If it's not working for you, Rob, you get to revise it.
Exactly.
So, any more discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote. Josh Antrim, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
I'll just connect with the harbor master then, and what we'll do is whatever he puts in place there, we'll make sure it's posted at the wharf and on the website or something like that. And as it changes, we'll make sure that it's publicly available.
Yep, that's gonna make sure it gets on the website, and if maybe on the Nahant Town Hall Facebook page as well.
Tony and Josh, could I just have a quick moment?
Yes.
Yeah. Just want to mention what a tremendous job our police department has been doing as far as trying to control the kids that we've had down the wharf. We've had large crowds, as you've discussed earlier, and putting Carl Macario on the wharf on a part-time basis has been a tremendous help. I just want to tell you that the sailing program is obviously working under quite a strain this year, and I think they've done also magnificent work in trying to keep the children safe. Their challenge obviously is elevated when they've done everything they can to distance their kids and keep everything sanitized, but then you have 10 or 5, 10, 15, or 20 people show up to go swimming off the wharf and start horsing around down there. Everything kind of goes out the window. So what I've seen is an effort to restrict that area, especially during sailing program hours. 2 people in the sailing program and 2 people who are actually using the pier for boating purposes. And this has been a great help. And I'm truly grateful for it, and I know that it's going to make a big difference. So thank you.
I'd actually like to add to that too. I've heard nothing but positive compliments about the instructors of the sailing program. And, these are teenage instructors that have, really taken the COVID compliance piece or added layer to their typical summer job and have done a tremendous job down there. So I too want to just thank them and publicly and congratulate them for the great work they've done. I think there's only a couple more weeks left in the sailing program, but I've heard nothing but, great things about how they've taken on that challenge.
All right. Item 4, ongoing business. 4A, preserving East Point, continuing discussion. Mark or Jean, do you have something you want to say about this, or are we looking for community input, or?
Yeah, let me first say, Josh, I think you covered it in your opening comments on the cases that the courts have ruled on behalf of the town of Nahant. So I'm really encouraged by those rulings. I think they're very positive, and hopefully we can get some more information out to the town. I know that depending on what happens with town meeting and what we can put on the agenda or not, on the warrant or not, we'll see. But I think that this discussion is going to be important, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'd like to add that I'd really encourage people to take the time to read the first and second statements by the Board of Selectmen that are posted on the Nahant.org website. I know they're a little long, but there's a lot of information in there. So if you're truly curious about the eminent domain process, why it's being pursued, what the financial implications of eminent domain and an expanded Northeastern are to the town, I would highly recommend that people read that and get educated on those topics. I'd also like to add that I do have a Facebook account, and I look at it and I see questions being asked. Many of them would be answered if people read that statement, but if they still have remaining questions, please know that that is not a formal format for asking the questions of the Board of Selectmen. All our email addresses are on nahant.org. Feel free to email. Feel free to use Citizens Forum. We're not going to be responding on Facebook. Jean, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, just I think Mark said it right. You've just added to it, and I think what's important to all of us is that we get this information, this data, this analytical information out to people so that they can more clearly understand what is circulating and what should or should not be circulating. And I think maybe as the Board of Selectmen, we probably should take a suggestion that we should take that second statement and reduce it, make it more simple, and get that out as soon as we can. Because leading up to this, the one thing people have to understand, and I've been pressing this over the last couple of months, is that they control what happens. It's their vote, and the only way we're going to be able to get their vote, positive or negative, is to present them with the information that they need to do that.
Yep, and that's what we're trying to do with these statements, and that's a good suggestion, Gene, is to simplify some of this stuff. But I would encourage people to ask questions. the second statement in particular on the finances, it's a working document. If people formally submit a question and it merits response, we'll happily edit that document so it is more inclusive of anything that seems to be missing.
If people would.
Josh,
Go ahead, Mark.
go ahead, Gene. I would just add to that, Josh, that the comments in what we put in our second statement is based on discussions with professionals, whether they're attorneys, whether they're appraisers. Our discussion in that second statement was based on professional opinions, and I think that's important that people understand that we are reaching out to professionals in order to make the right decision for the town.
Agreed.
And I think when you read that statement, it become apparent that eminent domain is in fact the most fiscally prudent choice. It results in saving that area from development and saving taxpayer dollars. So I'd definitely continue to encourage people to read that. And again, echoing what Mark just said, we consulted with professional land appraiser people with decades of experience in this field. Same thing with the legal professionals. These are legal professionals that have experience with eminent domain, know what the litigation costs typically are. So if someone's just making up numbers, make sure they have decades of experience in whatever number they're making up, because that statement is based on the opinions of experts with many years of experience. Anything further? Any more discussion?
Hang on.
There's a comment in the group chat, but I don't know if you want to take it now or if you want to wait until citizens forum.
The question is from Michelle Capano, and the question is, you have an executive summary in your BOS statement number 2, if that's a question. If that is a question, the answer is yes, there's an executive summary in the statement.
There's one from Ken Carandolo as well. Do you want to take it now?
Regarding the proposed CPA borrowing and eminent domain, if the final pro tanto amount awarded is greater than 4 million, the CPA.
I mean CPC, sorry.
And now the Board of Selectmen expects what to happen. The question boils down to, okay, so I'll read, he has listed some options here. A, the donors make up the difference. B, the taxpayers make up the difference. C, eminent domain is dropped, or other. Please specify. I guess the answer is D. Although based on 2 experienced land appraisers, it seems highly unlikely that the pro tanto will exceed $4 million. In the event that it does, we are working on a financial backstop. That is still in process. We will have that plan fully defined before town meeting when anyone's in a position to need to vote. I guess I'd say it could consist of A, private donors. It will not, we won't put forth any backstop that relies on the taxpayers in Nahant. We won't do that. But it will likely be some combination of private donors, nonprofit organization support, grants, and other potential vehicles. But that plan is being worked actively, and we do understand that it's an important question you ask, Ken. So I appreciate you asking that. And we will present the people with a plan before town meeting so that can be considered before they vote. That answer your question?
It does to the extent you, it does to the extent it can at this point. The backstop will be obviously a key concern.
We will have a backstop vehicle. Any other discussion or questions in the chat? Any other questions? All right, so moving on. And close the annual town meeting warrant. So Mark, do you want to make a motion here?
I'm looking at. I move that the Board of Selectmen, no, excuse me. I'm a little ahead of myself here. Okay. We are on ongoing business.
Yeah, I can read. I'll read the motion for you while you.
I have it, Josh.
Okay.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to open September 26, 2020 annual town meeting warrant for submittal of articles for consideration of placement onto the annual town meeting warrant as provided by the town administrator.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adding to the list of articles here that's in front of you. Article 28, Senior Deferred Property Tax Interest. This was proposed by the Board of Assessors to see if the town will vote to reduce the rate of interest that accrues on property taxes deferred by eligible seniors under General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41A, from 4% to 2.5%. Such reduced rate to apply to taxes assessed for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1st, 2020. Dan's on the call if you have any questions about this article specifically, but the Board of Assessors would be presenting this at town meeting. Dan, do you have any background on this one?
No, not on this one. I don't. We talked about the veterans work off, but not this particular one. This would I would defer this one to Sheila if she's still on board here.
I don't see her on here anymore, but essentially this is
Harry or David Hunt.
I don't see them on here, but they'll be prepared to speak to it at town meeting or in any type of information session prior leading up to it. Article 29, sale of town-owned land, and Article 30, discontinue a portion of Antigua Way. So both of these articles here have to do with what was brought up at the last Board of Selectmen meeting from Mr. Cardilli about the front steps of his house extending onto the actual right-of-way there, or the street. And it requires a vote of town meeting to authorize the Board of Selectmen to pursue a sale, and it also to abandon that portion of the property. Dan, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, it should be clear that this will be vetted by the town-owned land study committee as well after town meeting. So they need to be involved and will be involved. And this is similar to what we saw over on Bayview. And I don't believe there's any butter that is opposing this, unlike Bayview. So we've been through this process before. It's a very small piece of property. I think it's 192 square feet. I'm looking at the numbers here, so it's tiny. And it's a dead-end street that probably no one in Nahant hardly even knows where it is. It's just very isolated. So it's nothing new, and we're just trying to clean some stuff up for Mr. Cardilli.
Any questions from the board on either of those?
No.
Okay, and then Article 31, tree bylaws. This is a requirement to become a tree city. To see if the town will vote to adopt a new article. And we don't know what article of the bylaws that'll be quite yet, but so it's listed there as XIX. Is that a placement, Dan, or is that Article 19?
It would be. I'm pulling it up now. Hold on. Give me a second here. Let me pull it up.
So, anyways, the where it fits into the bylaws, it'll have the appropriate article number there, but
it will be at the end of the general bylaws.
Okay, at the end of the general bylaws, the preservation of the tree canopy, the planting of replacement trees, the protection of air quality, and the creation of a Nahant tree task force, or take any other action relative thereto. I know that Zach Taylor, our superintendent, is supportive of this, and groups in Nahant, that becoming a tree city, it allows us to fund, have some dedicated funding towards the preservation of trees in town. I'm sure they'll be prepared to speak to this at town meeting as well.
And we should point out, Tony, that this is really a few different suggested bylaws that will sort of weave in and out of Chapter 87. And a copy of these bylaws will be in the town clerk's office once we finalize them on our end moving forward. And Vipatech is very much involved in this, so we're working with her in that regard.
And okay, and Article 32 is parking violations. This is what we talked about earlier today, about earlier in the meeting, rescinding Chapter 90, Section 20A, as voted in the 1964 annual town meeting, and accepting General Law Chapter 90, Section 20A and a half, which will provide us that flexibility that we spoke about earlier regarding parking fees. And as we mentioned, so those are the new articles that are in front of you right now. And as we mentioned, you know, we'll have probably one more opportunity to adjust the warrant as we see fit before the FinCom needs, you know, a truly final version that needs to get sent to the printer for the book. Any questions on that? Okay, so that's discussion, so you have to take a vote.
Roll call vote. Josh Antrim, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Right, now we have to close the warrant. Gene, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to close the September 26, 2020 annual town meeting warrant.
Second it.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call vote. Josh Antrim, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
All right. Next item, item 5A. Well, item 5 is the town administrator report. Tony?
Yeah, so I have Johnson Elementary School COVID reopening update. We did end up talking about this earlier in the night. For anybody that joined on later, there was a meeting last night with the school committee, and there'll be another one tomorrow night and Tuesday night for anybody that wants to participate in that. If you just go to nahant.org in the community calendar and click on the date, there's a link to the agenda and a link to participate remotely. There was, as I mentioned, there was over 60 participants last night, and we expect more to come. And we'll have this on the agenda, a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen as the Board of Health, with the school committee in your next meeting in 2 weeks, for a full briefing from them. And they're doing a remarkable job. They really are taking, we have somewhat of the luxury in Nahant is space in our school to spread kids out where other communities don't have that. And they are, utilizing that appropriately and doing everything they can. And Superintendent Parentozzi is, great to work with as well. And as well as, and Deb, you're on the phone still, right, Deb?
Yes, I am, Tony.
I want to give a shout out to Patty Sheehan for the work that she's been doing, but I know you can speak better to it than I can.
Right. Patty's been, she's been amazing on the committee. She has, her field is research. So she has researched probably every article written about school reopening. And yesterday she asked me for all of our statistics for Nahant, and she put together, beautiful graphs of, what our cases actually look like. And she presented that at last night's meeting. She presented it as she was speaking. So I imagine tomorrow she'll get into it even into more depth. But the whole committee, I have to say, not just the school reopening committee, but the school committee itself, I was really so impressed with Lauren Sherlock as the new chairperson of the school committee. And it was a very long meeting last night with lots of participants. And she had a parents forum, and everybody, every parent had a chance to talk about it and express their concerns. And I mean, it's a big deal, trying to reopen the school now. It's, but I think the best people possible are trying to make this happen. And you're right, Tony P., our superintendent, he did a great job fielding all the questions and trying to be very transparent. And so it was great. It was a great meeting, and tomorrow will probably be the same. So, we are pushing that campaign of mask up for the kids. One thing that Deb mentioned earlier is it really is a community effort. It's not just a parent effort or a kid or a student effort. It's a community effort, and to ensure that it's a successful reopening, really encouraging folks to take social distancing serious and to mask up as much as possible. Right. I don't know why I'm getting blurry.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Next up is Citizens Forum. Tony, I guess we have maybe a couple chats that need to be answered.
Yeah, I have one in here from Cora Long. Said that she dialed in a little bit late, but in the middle of the discussion on the trash fees. But was there a discussion on raising fees for multifamilies? Cora, are you still on the call?
She is. I can see her.
Oh yeah, here she is. I can see her too. So yeah, trash fees typically trash bills have gone out by now. We have delayed the bills going out due to the restructuring of the contract, and our contract our contract for our hauling service, waste management, was up this past year. And we unfortunately are, negotiating during a time where trash fees and trash rates, recycling rates are increasing, globally. Not, it's not just here, it's around the world because of restrictions in China with pollution restrictions and things of that nature. So we signed a 1-year deal with Waste Management, mostly because of that uncertainty, plus the uncertainty of our own revenues in town and potential recession with coronavirus impacts. So we really weren't in a position to sign a long-term deal. So we signed a 1-year deal. But that 1-year deal does come with a pretty significant increase in cost. And it really kind of, along with, we had an override last year. We know that water rates have been increasing from MWRA. Sewer rates have been increasing with Lynn Water Sewer and the closure of Gorelick Farms, plus a number of capital needs that we have. So in all of those little bubbles, we are doing everything we can to try to suppress the increase in these fees to the ratepayer, to the taxpayer. So when you were looking at trash, we really looked at how is it being distributed, not only what goes into that total amount for the enterprise fund, and then how is that then distributed amongst the ratepayers of the town. So we took a look at that and found that the way that we have it currently set up was that multifamily homes, classified as multifamily homes with the assessor's office. So legal 2 families, legal 3 families, legal 4 families, commercial entities that have residential with them, or commercial entities that have private hauling service or utilize the public hauling service, and all those different categories of users and how they should contribute to the cost of trash removal. And one thing we found was that multifamily residential properties were being charged one fee similar to a 1-family home. So, for example, a 4-family home was being charged 1 fee instead of 4. So by taking that information, that data from the assessor's office as to truly how many units of homes there are in town, and charging them a trash fee, it actually increases the total amount of users in the system, thus spreading out the total cost of that enterprise account among more users, and allowing us to help suppress the increase being charged to us from the hauling service. Does that make sense?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, your explanation definitely makes sense. However, I don't agree with your calculations. There are 3 times more illegal in-law apartments that have more people. I mean, I have a multifamily. There are 4 adults in this house, but my neighbor has 4 adults and has a daycare. My other neighbor has 6 kids and 2 adults. So I don't understand how that calculation actually is right. I mean, we did at one point have per census. If you're per census, you have 7 people registered in your house. Well, that's what you pay your trash on. And how do you, what about the businesses? What about the daycares? Do they pay more in a single family house?
Probably not right now. That's definitely something that is part of the discussion that we're having right now of how to spread it out evenly or fairly. I appreciate your comment. Like, we didn't have a vote on it tonight, still in discussion of it, so I appreciate your comment. Trying to capture those illegal 2 families or 3 or multi-families is something that we're looking at. But certainly, the other side of it is that legitimate multifamilies only being charged 1 trash fee isn't right either. So we're trying to make it fair across the board. And that's definitely something that we're looking at, is how to capture some of those other units that you mentioned.
Okay. Ms. Long,
sure.
To your point, it's not going to be a perfect system. We do the best we can. If you know of, I can say there's nothing on our list regarding daycare. So if the list we're creating for the Waste Management Brothers Fund. So if you know of a daycare, then I suggest you email Sheila in the assessor's office and we'll address it. But it's not going to be perfect. So there's going to be a lot of these sort of unknown apartments, and there's Airbnbs that aren't registered with the town yet anyway, that we just don't know about. So it was up to folks like you to come say, hey, there's an issue here. But it's got to be on the record in writing, and we should receive it through the town hall.
Okay, they're registered. They're registered businesses in town.
I know of no daycare. I've not even seen.
We do have registered daycares in town, but they may not be on the list that we're working on.
They're not on the list we have. They're not on the list we have. So that's something we can deal with.
Yeah.
Okay, and I would like to point out another issue regarding the trash. And this came up 2 years ago, where a business owner from another town brings his trash to our town, and it's being picked up by our services. So, and that's still going on. So I think if there's a fee per bag or a limited what you can put out there would be sort of easier and would eliminate the overall cost for the elders that is living on their own and only have 2 bags, as opposed to the person that has, 6 people in the house and have 25 bags. Thank you, guys.
Well, didn't Swampscott just go to a new system where they have 1 barrel, a 35-ouncer, and if you wanted to trash more, you had to buy bags, I think it was 5 for $10?
Yes, it's a pay-as-you-throw system, and it certainly comes with growing pains. I don't think it's, the installment of that new system hasn't gone exactly smooth in Swampscott at the moment. But over time, many communities adjust to it. It takes some time to get comfortable with that type of system and kind of anticipate when you're going to need more bags as a household.
Right.
But that's something that we've been looking at as well, with switching to automated collection with limited trash amounts per household. That's something that we've been looking at as well. Our current 1-year contract does not include that. It's something that we hope to have a larger public process over the next year before we agree to a new contract going forward. I will say that in the past, the town had a fee system that was based on how many people were in a home, how many, residents actually lived in a house, and we had a lot of false reporting on how many, in order to pay less of a trash fee. And that became an issue, an administrative nightmare for the town. This is years ago. And so the town switched over to a single rate, which has been very low, compared to other towns, and hasn't changed in probably the last, I think, 6 years. So trying to maintain that low rate for all and capture as many people as possible has been our goal. And Cora, if you could, maybe take some of the comments that you mentioned on here and send them in an email over to myself at abarletta@nahant.org, that we would love to include that in our conversations.
Totally, definitely. I will do that, Tony. And I'll also take some pictures of the trash that's coming from one particular house that has 2 people in it, and it's coming from the business out of town, disposing of it in town. I'll do that.
I've had that issue come up in other. I don't know if it's the same issue that you're bringing up, and we can talk about
Yes,
it.
it is.
Person.
Yeah.
And I've had to address that in the past before, so I'm happy to revisit it if need be, or if it's something new.
Okay.
Yeah, let's connect on it.
Tony, a conversation for another night. But what about Airbnbs? Because they seem to be popping up.
So we have one article in the town meeting is to adopt the local hotels tax, and with that also create a committee to develop a regulations for Airbnbs for the town of Hunt. Right now, all we have on file is regulations for bed and breakfasts, and Airbnbs don't qualify under our current regs. So we really need, it's going to take some time, and I know that I think a handful of people have already reached out and said, if that passes, I'd love to be on the committee and help out with that. So it's something that we need to, organize a committee to spend some more time and take a look at what other communities have in place, because it's definitely becoming a larger issue. I think over a course of a year, there's got to be 200, I think our initial research said somewhere around 200 households that at one point or multiple points throughout the year, 200 different households in the Hunt will rent their property through Airbnb. So there's a big chunk of homes that fall into that category. So we definitely need to take a closer look at it.
Well, yeah, for certain.
All right, so let's see. Next comment is from Candace Cahill. Are you still online? Candace, can you unmute you?
I'm unmuted, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question was, I understand that I look at these through Zoom or calling in, but I understand that the meeting is no longer televised, and I was curious why, because we have a large group of residents that are not computer savvy and can't access the internet or Zoom calls and computers. So I'm wondering why we haven't fixed that.
Well, unfortunately, in the coronavirus type world that we're living in now, we have to host our meetings virtually. And when we were able to host them or publish them live on TV, that was really in link with allowing a public participation forum live there at the town hall, so people could actually participate by coming to the town hall and watching live and asking questions live. So, that's our number one priority, is making these meetings public and have the ability for people to participate. So, honestly, it just kind of comes into a technical issue when you're trying to do both.
So I understand. Sorry, go on.
We had a couple meetings that were in the town hall, and also broadcasted on Zoom and on the TV. And we had a lot of technical issues with sound and visual for people on both. You know, some people on Zoom couldn't hear, or some people on TV couldn't hear. You know, there's a lot of mixed issues there.
I guess my only challenge to the piece about having not available to ask questions, if you look at how many people ever ask questions on these calls, there's only a handful. So I don't think the ability to ask questions should matter. I think it's really some way needs to be figured out, and I can't believe it's that hard in this day and age to not be able to take a computer and hook it up to the Zoom call, and however they do it on the back end into the however you were transmitting it onto the community channel.
I mean, I guess it's up to the selectmen. If they prefer not to have people participate in the meeting, we can eliminate that portion of it.
Well, I'm not really saying eliminate.
Combining the two.
I'm not saying eliminate the ability to ask questions. I'm just saying if we're not correcting the problem for somebody that's sitting at the Jesmond or somewhere else and wants to watch what's going on in the town, they have no ability to do this now. And if it's just because we don't want to do it, or we're looking into other solutions because they can't ask questions, hardly anyone ever asks questions on these meetings. So I think they should still be able to watch. Whether or not they have the ability to ask a question is a separate issue.
Candace,
Well,
why
I guess
can't they
in that scenario, capturing both, if someone is simply wanting to watch and not participate, they can do so by we post them on the website, but we could download the recorded file of this meeting tonight, for example, and run it on the local TV channel afterwards. And then, you know, so the issue comes, the technical issue is doing both live at the same time. So we could certainly capture some of those folks who simply want to follow along but don't have the desire to participate by presenting the recorded version of this meeting onto the channel, the local TV channel, after it's done. It does take some time to download and format it and upload it onto the channel, but so there'd be some delay.
I think that's a great interim solution, but would it run more than once? I mean, it's not just going to run tonight after the meeting. Could they watch it tomorrow or some other point?
Yeah, we could definitely set it on we could have it loop so it's on continuously until, you know, maybe until the next meeting is uploaded.
Hey, Tony, it's Michelle. I just wanted to chime in here. Do you have statistics on how many residents or households in town have cable television versus like direct TV? And if they have cable television, they may have, you know, the advanced versions of the apps. So they would be able to get the YouTube app on their TV, and then you could live stream it simultaneously while you're running Zoom, and then air it later on the local cable station. Then you're still hitting a larger population who isn't using the Zoom app or computer, but they'll still be able to watch it on TV because it's being live streamed on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, I don't know what type of technical issues we would run into trying to stream it on YouTube at the same time as conducting it through Zoom. But we could try it. And we could find out how many people have cable, Verizon or Comcast, by asking our representatives from both of those companies. I mean, I think that I understand where both of you guys are coming from. We are doing everything we can to continue to operate regularly and have committee meetings. Many communities have stopped committee meetings completely, and we felt strongly that we had to continue to operate on multiple levels, not just the Board of Selectmen, but COMCOM, ZBA, Planning Board, assessors, FinCom, and we are doing, as much as we possibly can to continue to do that in a transparent way. And, it may seem simple from your perspective that to just simply get it to stream on TV, it just isn't that simple. And it just, we'll do whatever we can to try to publish these things as best as possible so people can follow along. Unfortunately, we're living in a different time right now and doing the best we can with the circumstances we have. So we'll try and see if we can get these looped on the local channel after they're recorded and downloaded and uploaded. Streaming them live in under multiple software programs or different types of technology programs, it's just not that simple, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Well, Candace, this is something that Tony and I spent quite a bit of time talking about on the phone the other day, and so we'll try to come up with an improved situation and let everybody know what that improved situation will be. Let's say by the posting of the next Board of Selectmen meeting.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I think even if you could put this meeting up and let people at their leisure watch it, that would work.
Sounds like we'll be able to do that.
All right, thank you.
Are you on the phone still or on Zoom? I'm sorry, are you still on here?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to speak to your comment?
Yeah, sure. I was just curious about, I followed the last few meetings. I heard you speak about some culverts, particularly on Castle Road, and I was just curious how that was going. You mentioned a couple of grants and things, and I guess my comment's pretty self-explanatory, but I could read it if you'd like.
No, I'm just catching up on it right now. So,
Okay.
Simply looking for an update.
Yeah,
it just the lowlands drainage issue.
Right, and specifically about Castle Road, I was just curious if you guys are actually zoning in on a larger round pipe that would go under what between like 35 Castle and the other one, or if you were looking at a much larger box culvert that would extend through that ditch area on Ward Road to Doggy Beach. I was just curious about that.
Well, I would say, we're looking at a lot of different things. It's really an engineering. It's really an engineering effort. I know Mark has spent some time talking with Zach and Tony and our town engineer, and Tony and Zach and I have talked about it. It's not a simple situation there. We've got pipes going various ways, and so I guess the fair answer right now would be we're looking at what would be the best engineering solution to the drainage problem we have there, both on a routine basis and on an emergency basis. But I don't think we're prepared to say we're going to put what we're going to do with a particular culvert or a vault in Castle Road and so on.
Yeah, well, that's awesome feedback, Josh. I was just curious how the process was coming along, and it's nice to know that it is coming along, and that you're getting close.
I don't know if you were on the line last week. Sorry, I think I interrupted you, Shannon.
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, at the last meeting, all three selectmen and the town administrator, reaffirmed our commitment to take appropriate action for that area, that low-lying area.
Yeah, I heard that, and I was excited about that, and that's why I asked the question. And thank you so much for everything that you're doing on that front. I know that that's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, it's important, so we're gonna get it done.
Awesome, thank you.
Perfect response there, Josh. Yeah, it's definitely a priority of the selectmen and myself, and you know, we're continuing to take a look at it, and you know, especially with, you know, the increase in storms and the severity of storms. It's something that, you know, is at the top of our list. So
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that too.
There was a chat that I scrolled off the top of my screen, but Alice Court was asking if the town warrants will still be printed and mailed, and the answer is yes.
I'm sorry, Josh, for interrupting. Backtrack a little. I was muted, so I wasn't able to get involved in that last conversation, but I did spend some time with Tony and W down on Ward Road and Castle Road, and I think we have a good solution coming up, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve some of the flooding issues.
Well, that's great, Mark. I appreciate that too. Thank you.
Yes, so the next one was from Alice Court. Alice, do you want me to read it, or would you prefer to say it yourself?
No, Josh just answered the question just before Mark spoke. So I was just wondering if there was going to be a change in the distribution of the warrant, and he said that it's going to be printed and mailed, and I think that's great. I think that's what should happen. Thanks.
Tony, just make sure, well, we talked about this last Friday. I believe that was the agreement.
You know, it's not really, it's a FinCom book, right? So it's up to the finance committee, but they do have to meet the bylaw, which says that they must cause to be delivered 7 days prior to town meeting a copy of the warrant with their recommendations to every household that has a voter in it. You know, now typically that's the full book. You know, 60, 70 pages of a book. And one thing that the FinCom was looking at was, you know, timing wise, when you're producing that type of mailing, it adds time and money to the process. But the bylaw doesn't say that the full book, you know, with all that background detail that's in there, necessarily has to be mailed. It's simply the warrant and the recommendations. So one thing that was under consideration was, you know, could we save some time and money by sending a simplified, you know, just simply the warrant with the recommendation, which is more like 20 pages, to every voter, and then have the full book available online and available at town meeting for when people show up. I don't think they've made a decision on that, and but ultimately it's
I'm outlined in
their
green.
book.
I'm outlined.
So as of right now, I would expect a full book. If that's the change, I'm sure there'll be a lot of public discussion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be very difficult to evaluate things if you're just getting a lot more information, another 50 pages of information when you show up to the meeting, which is occurring in a field, presumably out in the sun and so forth. I think that would be difficult if you want to formulate questions, or if you have any concerns about some of the items that are being added at that time. So I don't have a good sense of what's in those 50 pages that takes it from the 20 pages of warrant material plus their recommendations to the 70-page booklet. So I
A
think
lot of it is,
makes it a lot more difficult for citizens to adequately vote on things. I would just be concerned about that.
yeah, a lot of it is, I don't, certainly it wouldn't be an intent, of any intent or desire to limit information to the residents who are coming to vote. I think a lot of that extra stuff in the book is historical data on, previously approved funding under CPC funding articles. And sometimes, like, depending on what's on the warrant, like, for instance, when the wetlands bylaw, there was a ton of, maps and language and regulations that was included in the back of the book too. So I hear you, Alice, and I'll relay that to the FinCom. I would expect a full book at this point.
Look at those numbers that he has back here. Million in water and sewer.
So next is Peggy Silva.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks. I just wanted to say that, it's quite obvious to most of us, but no matter where you go in town, whether it's the beach, walking, the post office, our stores, whatever, everyone is talking about preserving East Point and the northeastern expansion. That's top on everybody's mind. I'm even getting, and other people too, got in the mail, a letter in the mail from concerned citizens. I think there was about 35 or so of them, but a letter in the mail saying about the issues. And then on social media, there's all these conversations and confusion and stories and discussions. And I would just like to say that we elected you. We elected you, the Board of Selectmen, and I trust you. I trust the three of you to find out the most knowledgeable people that you can deal with, and you are the ones that have the authority. Not all these people on social media or anything, but you're the ones that have the authority to deal with Northeastern, to deal with the legal aspects, to deal with conservation groups, the legislature, NEFA, and I think that most people trust you and would like to hear from you. I was very impressed with the statement that you made, the second statement that came out about preserving East Point. And I just wonder if there was a way that I know it's online and on the website, but it's very difficult to find. I mean, you kind of have to maneuver yourself around, and like even to go to what like Candace just said, a lot of people can't do that. Well, I guess I just had trouble with it too. But if there was a way that it could be mailed, if it could be mailed out to every citizen, it was so informative. And I just think that everybody should be able to see it, the second statement, and would like hearing from you, our leaders. What do they say? Everything comes from the top, right? So if there's a problem, I guess somewhere along the line, somebody said there might be a problem with the cost, because like you were just saying, the cost of the warrant. I'd be willing to donate some money that it would go to the citizens of Nahant, and I'm sure others would. So it's just something I believe that you are the ones that have the most authority, that I think you are the ones that know or would find out most about appraisals and sewers and water and what everything is going to cost. Or if you didn't, you would find the people that could. So I think there's a real trust issue with you guys, and we believe in you. So if there could be any way to send out that second statement, it would be wonderful. So.
Thank you, Peggy.
I agree. I agree with what you said. I mentioned earlier that it's really important for people to read this second statement. It
is.
Financial concerns. I saw a copy of that letter that was mailed to residents, and well, I guess I won't comment too much on that, other than to say there was no reference to the cost to Nahant for hosting an expanded Northeastern. Certainly that comes with a cost. The second statement from the Board of Selectmen says that that cost is 17 to 22 million over the next 40 years. So 40 years is a long time. That number was chosen because it exceeds the bond payments in the CPC application. But any compensation, to my mind, any compensation from Northeastern less than 17 million is a money loser for the town of Nahant, and that means the taxpayers. So if we allow a building up there in a natural resource district, by the way, where you and I are not allowed to build, the town of Nahant voted to make that area a natural resource district 29 years ago, with the support of Northeastern, by the way. And that means, according to the Nahant zoning bylaws, nothing except recreational buildings are allowed there. And so by permitting Northeastern to build there, we're allowing the violation of our own Nahant zoning bylaw and subsidizing it with our taxes because they aren't paying taxes. And even any offer they have made thus far comes not even close to the tax burden that you and I, all the taxpayers of Nahant, pay. And so the win-win situation in my mind here is take control of the property by eminent domain, which is cheaper than supporting Northeastern and the expanded campus they have in mind. So
Well, I mean, it's
to help on distribution of that second statement, because I think it's important to get in the hands of everybody.
Well, it's a very complicated, as everyone, single citizen in this town knows, it's a very complicated issue. And
it's a lot.
The numbers that are going back and forth, you really don't know which numbers are which. And so that's why I just thought that hearing from you guys would be the best.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Definitely support getting that out into as many hands as possible, because it's just important to, it's an important vote for the town, because it's a forever vote, right? This is not, are we gonna have an extra $50,000 for the library this year? This is something that affects the town for the rest of history of the town. So it's an important vote. It's important for everyone to have the real facts, not make up numbers, rely on experts in their fields to establish these numbers.
Yeah.
I guess I'll stop talking for now.
No, so can we mail it out so we can have some real numbers? I mean, like you said, it affects every person in this town. Personally, I mean, I couldn't live further away from East Point. I'm probably, in Little Nahant here, where the Causeway's the next stop. But it is important, I feel, for the town. So, but it's important that we all know the numbers too. So.
Yeah. And I think, even if you never go to East Point, even if you've never been to East Point, if you pay taxes in Nahant, you would support eminent domain strictly to keep your taxes down. That's my view, and that's what's supported by the second statement.
Yeah, that's why we need the information mailed out, right? Yeah. Good. Thanks for your consideration.
Yeah, Peg and Josh, let me chime in here. I think it is important to get the information out. I think it is important to make the information based on facts and data and experts and professionals in this area who understand what the real costs are for this, for the town's taxpayers. And I think we can get this information out, and I don't think it requires the cost of the taxpayers, but I think there are people that are willing to put up the money to make sure this information is disseminated to the to the residents of the town. And we should do that.
Right. I agree.
So
Yeah.
can we make that happen?
So maybe we can make that happen. Because it's very difficult to read it online, to find it.
It is hard to find. I know where it is now, but it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, you framed that perfectly.
I don't know. So I think I'm off.
All right, so we'll try to figure out how to get a mailing done.
Well, let me do this, Josh. Let me make a motion that we should. I move that the Board of Selectmen publish its second statement in a way that does not affect the town's taxpayers any money. The information that is needed for the eminent domain.
I'll second that.
All right, just a point of clarification. So that means we'll communicate the statement in some means without drawing on public funds. Is that essentially what you're at?
That's
motion?
correct. Mm-hmm.
I would support that. Any other discussion?
No, not here.
Okay, roll call vote. Josh Antrim, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Are there any other questions in Citizens Forum? I did see one earlier.
I don't see any other questions. I see, comments of support.
There's one comment here from Shannon Bianchi. Citizens could easily videotape their computer screen and stream the live meetings live on YouTube or Facebook if the board would grant that permission. Yeah, that's certainly one option. And as I mentioned earlier, I think we could figure out a better, maybe not an ideal solution, but an improved solution, and have that ready for the next meeting. And let people know by the time of posting the meeting what that solution will be.
Hi, this is Alice Court speaking again. I know you just voted to make the second statement available to the citizens of Nahant, but without drawing on any public funds. So and Peggy had volunteered to contribute and indicated that she thought that other people would be willing to contribute to having it mailed out to people. What would be the mechanics of making that occur then?
Well, we do have a gift agreement in place. Does anyone, Mark or Dan, could that mechanism be used? Do you know?
This would be a question for Jeff, but I don't see why that money couldn't be. But to be sure, I would just consult with the donor to make sure that they have no issue with it. And if they don't have an issue with it, well, I don't see a problem at all.
All right, so I guess we'll figure out the mechanism and let people know. Yeah, so I guess we just gotta figure out what the best mechanism is and let anybody that would like to donate know what that mechanism is. Michelle Capano has a comment. Michelle, do you want to read your comment?
Sure. I just had put in the chat that said I will donate to printing the second statement for the Board of Selectmen. So every resident has the opportunity to see it because it is an important document and this is an important time in history in our town. So folks really should be able to participate in it. I think there's a group of, I would say there's an underserved community that doesn't have access to the internet or a computer, and they hear about this or they read it in the newspaper or they talk to their friends on the beach. And so I think it's just really important to get the information out to people. If we can do it with our warrants, as we've done in prior years, and every household gets a document, then I think we should do it with this statement.
Excellent.
All right, any other comments?
Josh, I have one more comment or a question. So recently, new members were appointed to the Advisory and Finance Committee, and I'd like to know why those open positions weren't publicly made available to all residents so they could apply for those positions through the town moderator. I find it a little bit disingenuous that we've been hearing for a while that there was going to be some effort to organize these committees, identify the open roles, post them and make them available, and now having attended a meeting last week and having found out that new positions were available and no knowledge that this was being available to town residents, really very concerned about the process. Now I recognize that committee is the responsibility of the town moderator, but I would look towards the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator to make sure that it's an open and fair and transparent process when we do have open roles. These appointments, especially on FinCom, are treated like municipal employees, frankly. They're making recommendations that affect the monetary status of the community.
Yep, I mean, I share your concern, Michelle. It is an appointed board by the moderator. I think part of the intent of the moderator appointment is to keep the FinCom, let's say, somewhat independent from the Board of Selectmen. I don't know how those appointments were made, how people knew about the openings or submitted the openings, or necessarily when people resigned from the board. So I agree that this should be more publicized. I don't know if the FinCom chairman contacts the moderator or you, Tony, or how that whole process worked.
Well, I think what Michelle is saying, we should find out.
Well, moderator is notified when someone submits a resignation. They notify the moderator and the town clerk. So then the moderator takes on some type of process. Probably similar to what's been happening in the town for many years now, and part of the reason why we want to improve upon that process. So I share Michelle's comments.
So my understanding now, having attended last week's FinCon meeting, there is another open role. Another longstanding resident is retiring from his service, and nobody really knows about it unless you attended that meeting last week. And I think it warrants a discussion with the board and the moderator and the town administrator to make sure that all committees and boards under each of your purview, you each have a selection of boards and committees that you're responsible for appointments, that there is proper agreement that if there's any opening, that it gets posted on the town website, or you have communication vehicles available to broadly get this information out to folks so they know about it. Because you're missing out on an opportunity of residents that have valuable skills and experiences, and we'll never be able to leverage that.
It's a good point. And it applies across the board generically. to all the committees, whether they're appointed by the moderator, or administrator, or the Board of Selectmen. So we'll have to put our heads together and to find a process that's open in all cases, I guess. Not strictly a Board of Selectmen decision, but well, I for one will do what I can to facilitate an improved process.
Thank you.
Any other citizen forum? I don't see any. So
I just one more thing on Michelle's comments. I spoke with the town clerk today about where we stand with a accurate list of current seats and open seats and term lengths of appointed members and ethics tests and open meeting law training and all of the above. And right now the clerk's office is pretty busy with the upcoming elections and processing all the absentee voting requests. I think it's like over 700. But it is something that her and I we're having continued discussions on. So again, I support what Michelle was saying there. I agree wholeheartedly, and just wanted to give that update. Looks like you have one more, Cynthia.
Hi, Debbie Vanderslice. Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, Deb.
Is there a Cynthia that needs to go first?
Oh, there's some. It says Cynthia's iPad. I have a question. But go ahead.
Oh,
Debbie.
okay. I'm on the telephone, so maybe somebody else needs to ask a question.
Why don't you go ahead with yours?
I'm happy to go if you want me to.
Debbie, why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Okay, well, I want to make a point, and that was I noticed on one of the Swampscott Facebook pages the other day that they had this absolutely wonderful posting of every single open position. And obviously, it's a bigger town with athletic fields and such, so it wasn't just limited to, town management or oversight type of appointments. It was everything from, managing fields and things like that. But there were probably 20 listings on it, and it also had tabs so people could apply online and submit resumes or whatever, and I thought it was pretty neat. I know not everybody's on Facebook, but certainly that would be a step in the right direction. I mean, to Michelle's point, we have a lot of talent in our town, I think, and I think it would be unwise to just randomly pick people who may not have the better credentials for these jobs. FinCom is one of the most important committees we have because of their oversight and involvement with budgeting and, making recommendations. And so I think the thing with that committee is, I understand on one hand the positions were filled ASAP because there's work to be done and the warrant needs to be finalized and put out, and I would hope that that's the only rationale as to why those positions were filled so quickly. But on the other hand, we want to make sure we have candidates who have fiscal experience or, management experience or whatever. And, I know 4 people were appointed, and I think 2 of them probably don't have any financial expertise. So we want our best candidates, and to that point, I just am wondering if anybody, perhaps you, Tony, would know the answer. Is there any state requirement that jobs be posted? Certainly in the corporate workplace, there is a requirement that one posts jobs. It's illegal to do, you have to do it. I believe it's probably true in the government workplace. I realize a lot of these jobs are volunteer jobs, but transparency and qualifications still remain vitally important. So I did try to look it up online, and I could not find it. So does anybody have knowledge if there is a rule that a position might have to be posted for a certain period of time before the candidates are actually selected?
Dan might be able to answer that. I won't. I don't want to guess. I don't know if it would apply to appointment positions on committees and boards. But Dan, do you have an answer for that?
I know nothing that requires the advertisement of the position. Usually where that would come in is if a body is promoting or selecting someone to a position, well, that body would meet in open meeting and the open meeting laws would come into play. But in this case, the moderator is just himself. He's not a public body. So I don't know of anything from the legal perspective that would require an advertisement of such a position. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good idea, but I don't know anything that requires it.
Yeah, even if it's not a requirement, I mean, that's the goal, Debbie. The goal is to have a dedicated location on our website, and a process that would improve, the awareness to the community when positions become available.
Right, I understand. So I'm happy to hear that we're going to strive for that in the future. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to unmute Cynthia. She has to be unmuted. I'm trying to anyway.
Unmute.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just wondering, since the new parking stickers have been enacted, if we could do an evaluation of how it's working, because in the old system, the former system, we had 2 stickers, and one we put on my car and one we saved and laminated for if our children came. And we never exceeded our 2 stickers, but in the event that our children and grandchildren came, we would have a place for them to just go to the beach. Or sometimes I have a friend whose daughter has dystonia and she is in a handicapped van and needs special parking. We could put that sticker on her van and go to the wharf so she could enjoy a day at the beach or the ocean. So I'm wondering, since this year we went when my daughter came and the police said, you cannot have a sticker this year. And it's new. Since the new system, we've been able to go and say, okay, my kids are coming for the weekend. The first year, they would give us 3-day pass. Then they would say, oh, you have to come day by day. So we did. And then this year, it's, no, you can't have a pass. So I just want to know, how are my children and grandchildren going to come and visit me for a day at the beach if we can't facilitate that? And the policeman at the station said, well, laminate one of your passes. And that's what we did formally. But now with the number of our license plate on the sticker, we aren't doing that because we are trying to follow the rules. So tell me, how should we proceed? Should we save one back and laminate it like we used to do? Or what should we do? I mean, I want my kids to come and my grandkids to visit and go to the beach. So what do you want us to do? What's the right thing to do?
So listen, I completely appreciate your comments there. As you heard, I don't know, were you on earlier when we were talking about the parking issues in town?
Yes, but I thought that was more about the fees and so forth. So I just waited for my turn to talk.
All right. It's all kind of intermingled together. This year, doing temporary parking passes up at the station have been limited because of the extraordinary amount of non-resident parking issues that we've had in town this year. So it's not typical. Usually we do have temporary passes that we give out, and any normal scenario, I would highly encourage you to utilize that. This year's been unique because of the coronavirus impacts on parking in town and non-residents in the area. We aren't going to encourage laminating stickers because that would contradict the point of having, plate numbers listed on the sticker.
And yet that's what the police officer asked us to do. He said, well, you could laminate one. And I'm like, well, we already put them on our cars because they have our license plate. But I mean, we would happily save one back. It's the same number. We're not exceeding our number.
I would encourage, if in the random scenarios or weekends that you have those extra cars, calling the town hall or the police station. Usually we can try to accommodate people, whether it be at the town hall or at the school or in a lot like that, and then utilizing carpooling. We try to be as helpful as possible to the residents and their family. It does get tricky, when we're dealing with, it's hard for the officers to know if it's a family member's car or if it's a non-resident, just trying to park in a non-resident area of town. So
we went to the police station and we said it was my daughter. He said, take one of your stickers and laminate it and give it to her. I'm just wondering, is that what we should do in the future? Because we are trying to do the right thing. And I want my grandchildren to be feeling comfortable coming here. And I want my children to feel comfortable coming here.
Well, why don't we have a conversation, tomorrow or the next the next day at the town hall or by phone. I can follow up with you if you shoot me an email, your contact info, and we can.
Okay, with whom am I speaking? Because I have written to the Board of Selectmen 3 times, so I just want to know, where do I go?
This is Tony Barletta. I'm the town administrator, and my email is abarletta@nahant.org. And if you don't mind also CCing the administrative assistant, Bobby Jo Blair, and her email is bblair@nahant.org.
Thank you so much.
It's BLAIR.
Thank
All right?
you.
But, this is Josh Antrim, one of the selectmen speaking. It may be a scenario where you have to shuttle back and forth. I have the same situation with friends or relatives visiting without stickers, and I'll drive them down to the wharf. I'll drive back, pick up a few more people.
Okay, Josh, what do I do?
Park one car at the location.
Josh, what do I do when my friend has a daughter who has dystonia and she is totally handicapped from her head to her toes and she needs a handicapped van? And we used to go to the police department and they would give us a pass and we would go to the wharf and her mom would let the van down and she could roll out onto the wharf and have a day. We can't shuttle back and forth in my CRV. She is in a wheelchair and needs a handicapped van. What do I do if I can't go to the police? What do I do?
I'm sure we can make an accommodation in a special situation like that, but generically speaking, I think you heard the chief, and I don't, I hate to be the messenger, but you heard the chief earlier. I mean, they're running ragged trying to enforce Nahant's parking law. So, I recognize in the past it was easier to get guest parking passes and stuff, but with the current situation, it's going to take a little bit of sacrifice. Not in the case of your handicapped relative, but I'm sure we can make some accommodation for that. But given the current circumstances, it might be tougher than in the past. And I hate to be the messenger of maybe the message you didn't want to hear, but I think there's some reality to that. So I'll just say that's what I do.
So I'll follow up with Cynthia. Hopefully she's, if you're still in there, just shoot us an email and we'll try to figure out a way to accommodate your scenario, your situation. And as far as other comments on the chat, that's all I have.
I have a text saying there's a question from Bonnie Orlando.
Oh, yep. Scrolling back up. Should the Board of Selectmen statement be updated with the 3 recent court decisions?
I guess I would say to the extent they're relative to the second statement, which is about the financial impacts. Offhand, I don't know if they are or not, but if they are, we can do that update. If they're not, they would be part of not that statement, but maybe some other information that we're sharing.
Okay, I think that's it. Unless I'm missing something.
All right, well, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded. Roll call vote, all in favor? Josh Evermy.
Gene Canty, aye.
I don't know if you're still there, Mark. Looks like you're muted.
You get 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, that's good enough. We got a majority.
Okay. All right. Good night, everyone.
Do you need us to?
Oh, good question.
Do you need us to vote to adjourn? The rest
Yeah,
of us
go
in the joint
ahead.
meeting?
There's no reason not to. So go ahead.
Okay. How about I?
Adjourn.
Dan Bianchi, aye.
I think you lost, Dan, I think you may have lost quorum a while ago.
Yeah, I think we're all
you're
right. I'm not
good. I think
concerned
you're
about it. I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah. If we needed a quorum of all of us, we may have lost that a while ago.
No, we're fine. 3.5 hours, I think, is justifiable.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.